Hi everyone, it's John Heath here again for MiltonRose Learning with another Let's Learn video on Handmaid's Tale. So we're giving a real kind of introduction to this kind of horrible dystopia here today. So we're going to go through some of the basics, some of the context, and we'll tease out some of the characters for you. So it's a really good video to watch before you kind of dive into the text fully at school. Okay, so first off, let's have a look at some of the basics. Okay, of A Handmaid's Tale. So first off, in terms of the genre, what is it then? Well, it's basically dystopian fiction. This is a nightmare world, and it bleeds into feminist literature as well. So it's Margaret Atwood, a brilliant writer, and she fuses elements of political and social commentary. She's analysing the society in America and the world at the time that she was writing, and she uses it to explore themes of totalitarianism, that's almost like fascism and like dictatorships, gender oppression, and the struggle for individual freedom against a future that is terrifyingly plausible. Most of the time, there's always kind of the potential for kind of totalitarianism to break out around the world, and she's very much critiquing that. Okay, right, plot summary. Just give you a very quick overview, to be honest. The US government is overthrown in the text, and it's replaced by the Republic of Gilead. And it strips women's rights away, hence the feminist element of the text, and assigns roles based on fertility, your ability to have children, basically. So Offred is a handmaid, this kind of new social class that they've created of women, and she endures an oppressive life in the commander's house, forming forbidden relationships just to survive. Okay, so it's a very, in some ways, kind of very patriarchal text and kind of exploring those themes of male domination. And then the plot summary continued. Offred discovers the underground resistance, Mayday, and becomes involved in acts of defiance against Gilead, fueling her hope for escape and the reunion with her daughter. Offred is taken away in a black van towards the end. Her fate is left very ambiguous, quite famously, and it leaves her story to be discovered centuries later as a historical account. Okay, so it doesn't necessarily have a happy ending, if I can put it that way. Apologies for the kind of spoiler alert, but nevertheless, that's kind of what happens, and it's very interesting the way the novel ends in that way, and you'd want to be teasing that out with your teacher, why the ambiguity at the end. Okay, now for the high marks, we want to talk about context. Okay, and we've got three of the best kind of bullet points here for context for this novel. And the first one that you need to know about is postmodernism and dystopian literature. So Atwood wrote A Handmaid's Tale in the late 20th century, and concerns about totalitarianism, feminism, and an environmental crisis, which is still barreling along today. The novel fits the dystopian tradition then, because she was worried about the world going to hell, effectively, in loads of different ways. And so she's critiquing and questioning the modern idea of progress, the idea that as society evolves, we get better and better and better, but not necessarily. We can go backwards. You know, it doesn't always lead to progress. And it shows that how power can become oppressive and ultimately dehumanizing. Power can kind of, you know, treat citizens like, you know, like garbage, effectively. Then the second piece of context you should probably know is feminist critique and patriarchy. So this novel was responding to something you want to research called second wave feminism. And the novel imagines a society where women's rights are violently stripped away. So it critiques patriarchal control and religion's role in enforcing gender oppression. And it highlights the fears of losing hard-won freedoms. In democratic societies, as I'm sure you know, we've had to fight and die for those democratic freedoms. We fought 2 world wars partially to defend those democratic freedoms, and so they are extremely hard won. And Atwood is kind of exploring in this novel what would happen if those freedoms are lost, and potentially lost forever. Okay, so you really want to kind of understand that kind of element of the novel. And then the last one, as you can see from the CCTV, is surveillance, control, and social hierarchies. So this was written during heightened awareness of state surveillance, where they follow you everywhere and follow what's going on in your life. And the novel shows how fear and ideology enforce rigid social rules, so making outsiders vulnerable to persecution and erasure meaning to be erased. So surveillance is everywhere in this society, and it's everywhere in all totalitarian societies. They watch where you go, who you talk to, what you think about, what you express, and it's really exploring that. You'll see that when you read the novel Gilead Society. You can't breathe. Everything is surveilled, and it's again something which is kind of really teased out. And what if that surveillance got too much and got to almost crazy proportions? So you really want to think about the moral implications of that. Okay, and then let's have a very quick look at just some of the key characters for you, just so you know who they are when you start reading it at school. So the first protagonist that you need to worry about is Offred, the main character. So she's a handmaid, and she's forced into sexual servitude in the Republic of Gilead. And she struggles to maintain her own identity because she does have another name, but they take that away from her and call her Offred to kind of destabilise her identity. And she embodies in the novel the resilience of the human spirit. She never gives up under oppression and individual defiance. She tries to stand up to the system. So a very brave character in that sense. Then moving over, we have the commander, Fred Waterford. He is a high-ranking Gilead official, and he reveals the hypocrisy and the longing for the old world, the way society used to be. And in my interpretation, in my classes, he embodies the corrupting nature of power and the intellectual justification of oppression. He's kind of swallowed the rule book, and he kind of serves Gilead quite faithfully because he's in such a strong position due to the revolution. Okay, then we have Serena Waterford. So she's the commander's wife and a former advocate for Gilead's ideology, now frustrated and powerless within it. So she embodies the complex female oppression. She is a woman who is an enforcer of the Gileadian system, if I can put it that way, but she's also a victim of it as well, because it's a patriarchal system that dominates women. So she's quite an ambiguous figure, very interesting character to kind of try and tease out. Is she a victim or is she a villain in the text? That's a very interesting debate to have in class. Then we have Moira. So Moira is Offred's rebellious friend, fiercely determined to resist Gilead. Okay, so therefore she embodies active physical resistance, bravery, and the bonds of friendship, which are crucial in this book. That tends to get forgotten in the book, the bonds of friendship, because it's quite a subtle theme, but do try and remain alive to that, because in some ways the friendship is the only way in which Offred can kind of cope in this Gileadian society. Okay, two more. Nick Blaine. So Nick Blaine is the commander's enigmatic chauffeur, because he's very high up, so he has his own driver, intimately involved with Offred. So he embodies, for me, the ambiguity and the hidden motives. He's quite a mysterious figure in this text. Quite interesting because of the ambiguity, but I'd be very interested, you could maybe pop that in some of the comments, what your beliefs are with Nick Blaine. I'm quite negative towards him, but that's just my interpretation. But very interesting figure in the novel. And then we have Aunt Lydia, looking very happy there. She is the strict instructor at the Red Centre, and she indoctrinates handmaids into Gilead's ideology. Totalitarian societies cannot function unless they brainwash you, basically, into believing what they want you to believe. So she's at the centre of that indoctrination. She embodies then psychological manipulation and internal policing within the totalitarian regimes, as we know. So that's happened in totalitarian societies throughout history, from Nazi Germany to Stalinist Russia to Pol Pot's Cambodia. Totalitarian regimes manipulate and brainwash all of their citizens if they can, and Aunt Lydia is a pretty nasty figure for doing that. Okay, Right, hopefully you've enjoyed that kind of nightmare dystopian kind of narrative, but it's hopefully giving you just some of the key things that you need to know before you dive into this this brilliant book. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, tap the bell icon please to never miss another Let's Learn video again. Share it with all your friends, because obviously we're growing the channel as big as we can now, and it just remains to say thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you soon.